Okay, so now I will teach you the next breathwork pranayama exercise. So I have my fingers in Vayu Mudra. So if you attended some of my previous sessions, I've talked a lot of details about the power of the tips of the fingers. Each of them are energy centers. But for the sake of simplicity and the sake of continuity, I want to keep moving along, teach you the breath work. So go ahead and do this Vayu Mudra. Put your palms facing upwards on your lap. And here's what we're going to do. So in this exercise, it's breath work through the nostril going in, and we're going to do 5 breaths in. So imagine taking short bursts. You're taking 5 breaths in, hold, and then you exhale from the mouth. Okay, so here's how it's going to look like. You get that? So let's do 7 rounds of that. So 5 breaths in, short kind of step-by-step breathing in, filling into your abdomen again, never into the chest. Hold for a few seconds, and then we exhale through the mouth together. So let's do a count of 7, around 7 rounds of that. Okay, let's start. Second round. Third round. Fourth. Fifth round. Sixth. And the final round. All right, so now moving on to the next exercise, the last exercise in the pranayama sequence. This is called Kapalbhati. Kapalbhati, if you've attended some of my previous sessions, I always try to incorporate this. This is such a great internal organ healing exercise. So here's how it's going to work. Again, my fingers are in Vayu Mudra, so my index fingers touching the tip of my thumb, palms facing up, my arms are rested on my lap, and with my eyes closed, the focus here is on the exhale. The previous one, the focus is on the inhale. Here, the focus on the exhale, and it comes out as a short burst. So here's how it goes. So if I'm doing this right, the only thing that's happening is my belly is flapping. I'm using my diaphragm to breathe out, not my chest, not somewhere else in the body. It's my diaphragm that's using to exhale in terms of short breaths, and I do a sequence, a set of 21. So here's how it goes. Watch me first before you start. I'm going to show you a quick demonstration, and we can all do it together after that. Right? So I'm using my belly to create the exhale, and the only thing happening is my belly is moving and air is coming out through the nostrils, coming as a short burst. Okay? So focus on the exhale. The body knows how to take when you know how to give. The focus is on the giving, and the universe will teach you how to get. So just make the concentration on the exhale. 21 times. We're going to do 3 sets of that. Okay, let's go. Taking a deep breath in, 3/4 of a breath out, and let's start the count of 21. Regular breathing. Let's just pause the Kapalbhati. Just let the inhale go in and out naturally. Take another deep breath in, and this time as you exhale at the bottom of the lungs, I want you to hold. I'm going to count silently for 30. So we're going to hold together for 30 seconds on an empty set of lungs. Well done. Inhale. Exhale regularly. Well done on holding your breath for this long. So now this time inhale. Let's do the second round of Kapalbhati 21 times. 3/4 of a breath out and start. Pause. Let's take a regular breath in and out through the nostrils. This time as I take a breath in, at the top of the lungs, we're going to hold for a count of 30. And exhale. Well done. If you couldn't keep up the entire 30 seconds, that's okay. As best as you could, you're extending your capacity to what you know that the body is capable of. So this is just an incredibly powerful exercise. Take a regular breath in, 3/4 of a breath out. Let's go into the third and final set of Kapalbhati. Pause. Let's take a regular breath in. And this time on exhale, at the empty lungs, we're going to hold for a count of 30. Four, three, two, one. Inhale. Congratulations. Very well done. Very well done. Now just acknowledge for yourself, how do you feel right now in your body? Pranayama is the breath of life. Prana is the root word. Prana means life. Pranayama is the exercise of life. We're actually nourishing the body, whether you realize it or not. What happens is during the course of the day, we tend to hold our breath when we're thinking, when we are excited about something, when we are alarmed by something. Different emotions tends to make us to unconsciously stop us from breathing, and as a result of that, we are depriving the body of the much needed oxygen. And so what when we do this pranayama exercises, we're compensating, we're oxygenating the body, we're giving it what the body needs, what the mind needs. And so as you're doing that, there is a very deep science behind the controlling of the breath. You might ask yourself, Jay, then why are we holding breath? Why are we doing the short bursts? Why are we doing this long exhale, etc.? Now, there's a lot of science to show that the manipulation of breath is actually much more beneficial to the well-being of the body than just observing your breath. There's a lot of techniques, a lot of traditions will teach you about observing your breath for extended periods of time, which is good. That has a value in itself. But what I'm teaching you here is oxygenating your body, oxygenating your blood. And so when you're holding your breath, there's actually a whole lot of science that show that the actual exchange between the carbon dioxide molecules that are coming out of your bloodstream into your lungs for the exhaling, and then the oxygen that's going into your bloodstreams and then going by divided across the body, shared everywhere through the capillaries, that exchange is regulated. So as we are holding breath, we're allowing our bodies to absorb a whole lot more oxygen rather than the shallow breathing that happens. Right? So that's a very, very powerful. And then when you hold your breath, you're also teaching your lung the capacity to be able to take in much more and hold for much longer. So you're deepening, you're almost extending its ability to take in deep breaths and hold for a long time and exhale. So there's a whole lot more throughput happening per cycle of breathing in. And also, if you notice some of the longest living creatures on this planet, they are the ones that breathe the slowest, right? So the tortoises, the crocodiles, the elephants, they have the longest lifespan. So they say in Eastern philosophy that when every soul comes down onto this earth, when they're born, they have a certain number of breaths that are accounted for. It comes with a certain quota of breaths. Now, it's up to each individual whether you want to run through that quota in a short amount of time, or do you want to actually extend it for a long period of time. So that's completely in your capacity. So yes, so there's a lot of science in this, in pranayama, and I'm just kind of scratching the surface here. So as we go through these from week to week, I will be teaching you more exercises, and we kind of build upon each of these steps that we're doing here. Fantastic. So now, getting into the agenda for today, so I'm going to start off this topic of the fundamentals of well-being with a story. Like I always do, all of my sessions, I like to start off with a story to put the topic in context, and then I'm going to share with you some wisdom nuggets that I've learned. And then I'm going to take that into a meditation to bring it into a practical application of everything that we have theoretically learned about, and then I'm going to open it up for some Q&A. So as I've said before, I ask that you please go ahead and put your questions, go ahead and ask your questions, but then I need you to know that I will not be able to see the questions till I open it up for Q&A, because my focus right now is on the discussion and it's not on the chat, because if I focus on the chat, I won't be able to get through and be able to deliver everything that I want to get through. And so even if you think that you've asked a question in the meantime, when I open it up, I ask that you go ahead and repost it once again. So the story is by Leo Tolstoy. It goes back several hundred years ago in Russia. There used to be a man by the name of Pahom, and his wife and his sister-in-law were all the time bickering about, whether they should live in the city or in the countryside, whether they should have a big farm, a small farm, big house, a small house. And he said to himself, I wish I had more money. I wish I had some wealth where I'm able to acquire a big tract of land. I'm able to produce so much crop that I don't have to worry about all of these nitty-gritty, all of these little things that these women are fighting about. So as he was doing that, the devil heard him, and he made a challenge to him. He says, I am going to give you so much wealth. I'm going to give you so much that you could not imagine. And then I'm going to take it all away from you. And so Pahom laughs at him and that's the devil and says, oh, okay, we'll see about that. So then the guy goes about, starting a business. He's going and buying more land. He goes and acquires something where there's a bigger tract, makes a deal with his neighbors, etc. And one day, he hears about this very interesting group of people, a tribe by the name of Bashkirs. And he heard that the Bashkirs own an innumerable amount of land, vast expanses of land. So he goes there one day and he says, okay, today I'm going to make a deal with these Bashkirs who own so much of very, very good fertile land. So he goes to them and he explains that, he's come here to purchase land, and he says, okay, what is the rate? To his surprise, these guys, the Bashkirs, they give him a very odd deal. And they tell him that you can take with 100 rubles any amount of land you possibly can. But here's the deal. You need to go ahead and drag a spade, and as big of a circle as you possibly want, you can go ahead and drag your spade around the piece of land. The thing is, by the time it's sunset, by the time it's dusk, you need to come back to where you started, and whatever is encompassed within that circle that you draw with your spade is yours. Pahom is excited. He is delighted. He's never heard of something like this. So the next morning, he packs up his food, he brings some water, puts it in his little backpack, and he starts dragging the spade at the break of dawn. Dragging his spade far out into the countryside, as far as he can go. And as he's dragging and dragging, it becomes midday, and he looks up, the sun is right over his head, and he says, okay, it's perhaps time for me to turn around and start heading back. But then he looks around, looks further, and he sees this beautiful, even more fertile land. He says, oh my God, all of this place that was here was a little bit rocky and it was not really the best of land, but I see that green pasture. Let me extend it further. So then he decides he's going to run further and he's going to extend that line to include even that fertile land. And as you get to the fertile line, he notices that even the fertile land has some ups and downs, but then as he looks further, there's more flat land. And he knows that it's easier to grow crop in flat land. So he says, okay, why not I extend that further? And he looks at it, it's like now it's becoming about 2, 3 in the afternoon. He can see the sun is coming to a point of 45 degrees and he knows it's time to turn back. But he's come a long way. So he says, I'm not going to make it back if I just walk back. I'm not going to make it back if I just pace faster. I need to run. So Pahom, dragging his spade, he starts running and running to the finish line. And then he starts seeing, after a while of lots and lots of running, he sees the sun is beginning to come down. And he can see the people, the Bashkirs, standing there on the horizon, cheering for him. So he runs faster and faster, trying to meet that deadline. And as he runs, he comes to the deadline just as the sun sets. He's exhausted. And he falls down dead. The Bashkirs look at that body and say, another idiot has given up his life today. So they take him and bury him in 6 feet of land. Leo Tolstoy titled the story, How Much Land Does a Man Really Need? So folks, tying this to the topic that we're here to talk about, the fundamentals of well-being, I ask you to reflect on this question. What is well-being for you? Philosophers through history have been trying to answer this question. Aristotle said it is our pursuit of happiness. Nietzsche said, no. It is our thirst for power, our desire to be able to be powerful. And Freud said, it is our intention, it's our best attempt, it is our determination to avoid feeling stress. And yet, as you reflect on this, none of these 3 concepts seems to really encompass what wellness truly means for us. So I want you to think about this as I tell you to reflect on this question. Oftentimes, for the vast majority of people, one thinks that success is directly related to wealth. Well-being is proportional to your wealth. Let me tell you something about this. So the success of a country, the progress that a country has made, is measured by what is called GDP, gross domestic product. Okay? So what that means is the amount of output that country is able to provide, to put out in a period of a year. Now, if we would look at the correlation between the countries with the highest GDP, they don't necessarily have the highest levels of happiness in this world, have highest levels of well-being in this world. For example, Latin America has an inverse correlation. So it hasn't had some of the greatest GDP, but it has the highest level of satisfaction, contentment, well-being, happiness. Now, I'll give you one very specific case in point. When people in communities are depressed, they're prescribed to antidepressant medication. So if you think about it, so as communities are depressed, they're being prescribed antidepressants. They're taking more antidepressants. That means they're going more to the pharmacy. So means more pharmaceutical companies are producing antidepressants medication, which means a greater workforce is available to actually go to the factories, offices, industry, wherever that cases may be, and actually be there for work, be available, which means that actually producing more, but does that correlate to well-being? Perhaps not. Let me give you another scenario. If we are spending, think about the cities, industrialized countries, we have cities which are conglomerates of entrepreneurship, of merchant, of business, of productivity, employment, right? So what happens inevitably in cities is that you have this vast sprawl where people live far off places to make it, because they're trying to avoid excessive rents, etc. So you have these people making these long commutes to get to their places of work so that the GDP of that land, whatever the case may be, the city, town, state, country, etc., is actually going up. But let me ask you this. Are people spending that much of time in traffic on the road versus being with their families, are they actually happier? So these are questions that one needs to ask themselves, because all of our education systems, the business schools, our marketing engines, the multi-trillion-dollar marketing engines out there are tying your emotions to products. Just putting it very simply, this is how I synthesize this. Marketing is tying emotions to products, and they're trying to make you feel that if you're feeling certain thing, it's because you need this, or you don't have this, or you have to go and acquire this to feel the best version of yourself, to feel safe, to feel content, to feel happier, to feel more fulfilled. And so if you don't question these things, if you don't get into this process of reflecting on actually what truly happiness is, what truly fulfillment is, and what is the source of my well-being, it is very, very likely that you've bought into one of these concepts of well-being that has been marketed to us. So today I want to talk about 5 concepts that have been illustrated in positive psychology as means of well-being. The first one is positive emotions. So this is where the sense of being happy, sense of being calm, sense of being ecstatic, sense of being awed, right? Sense of being loved. This is the primary contributor to your sense of well-being. The second one is engagement. Engagement sometimes is referred to as being in flow. Now, I'm sure you've all had some experience in your life where you were involved in some activity. It may be something very simple as building something with your child or with your niece or nephew, grandchild, whatever it is, and you're so wrapped in attention into whatever that you're pouring yourself into that nothing else matters. Time ceases to exist. You're not hungry, you're not thirsty, you don't need sleep, you're completely engrossed. That is what psychologists refer to as a state of flow. Sportsmen talk about that, being in that zone where they don't hear anything, they don't feel anything, there's no distractions. You're completely 100% present and absorbed in it. So that is the second condition, second aspect that contributes to your state of well-being. The third one is meaning. What is it that it does, your occupation, your involvement, your engagement, what does that do for you? Whether it is a purpose of you're going and working on social justice programs, environmental initiatives, whatever it is that you're going out there for, where do you feel like you're pouring your heart into? What is it that is meaningful to you? Beyond just giving you the pennies, giving you the position, giving you the prestige of being in a position of power or some such. How is something meaningful to you in that which you use to choose your put your energy into? The fourth aspect of well-being is accomplishment. We all have this innate desire to feel we have won for the sake of winning alone. Now, the winning doesn't have to be a gold medal at the Olympics. It is about finishing a task in the defined time, within the defined resources, right? So set you, whatever that case of success may be for you, whatever the case of accomplishment be for you. We all strive to become better. We all strive for improvement. We all strive for upping our goals, raising the bar. And when we feel that we've achieved that, there's a sense of well-being that comes about. And the fifth one, which is a very, very important one, is positive relationships. There was a study done by Harvard University, the longest study ever done on Earth. It's a study which was done for 75 years, where they took individuals from the time of their birth through the entire childhood into adulthood and into the old age. Some of them have died by now, some of them are old, some of them have grandkids, some of them have stayed single and they don't have kids, whatever. So they have myriad of different possibilities, and they looked at the lives of these individuals and they said, what is the one factor that contributes greatest to their state of well-being? Guess what it was? The quality of relationships. The quality of positive relationships that you have in your life. People that you can call, people that you can count on. It is very interesting. So I'd read through that research paper and I found that we have many kinds of relationships. But what is it the ones that actually contribute to your longevity and your sense of well-being? I found out that it is those relationships upon which you can hang your life on. You know these people have got your back. The people that you can trust, the people that are not necessarily the ones that you are in contact with every day and engaging with every day. Maybe, maybe not. But you know these people have your back when you need it. So the number of those people, those trusted relationships that you have in your life is directly proportionate to your quality of well-being. Okay, so sit with that. So now I'm going to share with you 3 simple practices that I want you to focus on yourself, but also if you have young ones, children, grandchildren, what have you, I want you to consider sharing this as exercises. These are 3 simple techniques at the end of the day to measure your state of being. Okay, what is the quality of the day it has been? And how you can use the lessons from one day to improve the quality of the next day and the next month and the next year and so on. First one. At the end of the day, as you're reflecting, as you're falling asleep, winding down for the day, think of things that went right today. See if you can find at least 3 things that went right today. And it's important to acknowledge it. A lot of times, our brain is wired to find and nitpick on things that hasn't gone well out of fear, So this whole thing of the evolution of the human brain, as when it's come through generations from the different animal species, we have evolved to hold the fight and flight mechanism as a way of protecting us. So guess what? Even as we've evolved into a community as a place where there's a relative great amount of safety around us, we don't need to worry about the saber-toothed tiger or the alligator that's waiting at the river to eat us when we go to fetch water, right? So the brain needs to be rewired in a way that we're able to actually reaffirm, acknowledge. We need to deepen our appreciation for the positive things that are happening in life, so we keep repeating them, right? If there's a recipe that's working well, we should be using more of. So at the end of the day, ask yourself the question, what are 3 things that went well today? Number 2, think as you're falling asleep again, end of the day, set a seed or sow a seed for the next day. What random act of kindness can I engage in the next day? Just think of anything. It could be something small, it could be something big, or anything in between. What random act of kindness can I engage in the next day? Go ahead and sow the seed. Next day, go ahead and deploy it. At the end of the day, debrief on it again and say, How did that go? Notice how your sense of well-being, your sense of, what I was talking about, meaning, engagement, meaning, and deepening relationships. This is how it happens. The third step to improve the quality of your well-being is learning to spot virtues in everybody that you come across. You see, we are very good at spotting virtues on people who agree with us, people who like us, people who appreciate us. But the challenge is, can you find virtues, positive traits in people who you don't necessarily agree with, who don't particularly treat you well, treat you right? Those villains in the stories that you read about in books or in movies. Can you learn to spot virtues in these people, in these characters? Okay? So now let us dive into a meditation where I will actually reaffirm these 3 steps, these 3 exercises that I've just shared with you. So I'm going to go ahead and play some soft music. And as we begin to meditate, I want you to start by observing your breath, doing what we just did, breathing in for a count of 5, and exhaling for a count of 5. Eyes closed if you feel comfortable, shoulders relaxed, palms rested on your lap if that feels comfortable, preferably facing upwards. The back straight, whether you're sitting or lying down. Taking in nice, comfortable breaths for a count of 5 in and for a count of 5 out. Now I want you with each passing breath, gradually take your attention from the world outside into the world within, underneath the skin, below the flesh, and even underneath the bones. Notice an energy that runs through the core channel of your body from the top of the head right through the body all the way down to your legs, the feet, and the tips of your toes. I want you to feel the tips of your toes right now. Wiggle them if you need to. And if you can feel the tips of your toes, that means there's energy there. Gradually bring your attention on the energy that's felt at the bottom of your feet, the soles of your feet. Feel the sensations at the bottom of your feet. Then gradually allow that to come into the ankles, moving up into the shins, into the region of the calf muscles, into your knees, feeling your knees right now. Going up through the thighs, into your hip region. Feeling the point of contact your buttocks are making with the seat, the floor, the bed, whatever you may be lying down or sitting right now. Gradually going up through the spine, going past the abdomen into the region of the solar plexus, the bottom of the rib cage, and then into the rib cage, past the lungs and the heart to the shoulders. Starting at the tips of the fingers, now feel the tips of your fingers. Let's go through the fingers into the palms, feeling the surface of the skin on your palms. Gradually allowing that to go into the elbows, through the forearms, and up into the upper arms to the bicep, triceps, and into the shoulders. And going up through the shoulders into the neck, through the back of the neck, into the back of the head. Following that line from the back of the head in the scalp to the top of the head, to the front of the head, to the forehead, to the front of the face, sensations in the cheeks, the nose, the lips, the teeth, the tongue. And then gradually focus your attention to that inflection point where the air goes up through the nasal passage, coming in with a cool breath into your body and turns around and goes down your windpipe. That place where it turns around, at the bridge of the forehead. This is the seat of consciousness. This is the seat of all memories. It's the seat of creativity. It is from here that I, the living being, I animate this body. I experience and express myself through this costume, in this drama that we call life, on this stage that we call planet Earth. I, the eternal being, have traveled through time and taken on many roles in many costumes to play many parts. I am an eternal traveler that is passing through this confluence of space and time in this moment, in this body. Sometimes I forget this because everything out there in the world seduces me into believing that I am the physical being that I see in the mirror. And I start defining myself by the stories that I've experienced in this lifetime. And I begin to limit my capabilities by myself. Nobody else is responsible except me for feeling small, for feeling incapable, helpless, powerless. But there come certain moments in life, sometimes through tragedies, that wakes me up. That makes me realize my eternal self, my powerful, my timeless, my wise being. And when I have those moments of awakening, it is my responsibility to stay awake. Because I don't need to wait for tragedies to come and teach me to wake up. And from that state of being awoken to my true self, my powers, my capabilities, I use my resources in ways that uplift, that guide, that support the waking up of others around me. And when I engage myself in something that uplifts everybody, including myself, it gives me meaning. It gives me a sense of fulfillment, unlike any other mundane task. So now I ask that you reflect on 3 recent events where you felt there was meaning, where you were fulfilled. Three events where you are deeply connected with your purpose. It could be the smallest of events or something quite extraordinary, whatever the case may be. And then ask yourself, what is one act of kindness that I wish to exercise? That will bring me happiness. envision yourself executing on this act of kindness. Seize it as if it is already happening right now in your mind's eye. And let's bring our palms together at our heart center with gratitude for this inspiration, for this centering, and for this connection. And I want you to rub your palms together, creating a warm energy center. These palms are a great vortex of energy in your body, and as you rub your palms, you're initiating the chi, prana, life force. And I want you to take both your palms and put them on your eyes, one palm on each eye, as a way of blessing yourself, allowing this chi to heal you. And repeat this affirmation to yourself. May my life be filled with meaning. May I be blessed with strong, loving relationships. May my mind be filled with positive feelings. And now take your palms and keep them facing outwards as if to give a blessing to someone or some people. And think of somebody that could use some positive vibrations right now. And from the depth of your spirit, with complete compassion, send them the blessing. It could be a person, it could be a group, or it could be a place. May their life be filled with positive feelings. May they enjoy warm, loving relationships. May they live a life of meaning that fulfills them. And then ask yourself, bringing your palms together back to heart center, how do you feel right now? And if you could share how you're feeling right now in one word, what would that be? And I ask that you please share that one word in this chat window. And I'm beginning to see them already. And as I'm seeing blessed, more blessed, light, electric, peaceful, positive, full, lighter, grateful, more peace, more loved. It's beautiful to see all of these feelings. Impermanence, tuned in, content, calm, connected, present, balanced, peaceful, calm, blissful. Wonderful, wonderful, folks. So go ahead and put in any questions that might have come up in the course of the conversation today. As I've said, if you think that you put a comment or a question, I wouldn't have seen it because I was focusing on the meditation and the conversation. So please go ahead and repost your question or comment, and I would be very delighted to see it. And if there needs any commentary, any clarification, any answering, I'm happy to do that. And if it's just a question of me knowing how you feel or something that came up, I'd love to hear that too. So let's just give it a moment and see, is this Vipassana meditation? I don't think it's Vipassana. Vipassana, a lot of it is about observing just your breath. My practice is informed by what I have learned for the last 20 years as a monk, as I mentioned to you. My practice has been in Raja Yoga meditation, which is a very ancient form of yoga, perhaps 5,000 years old. It's been captured in the book, the famous scripture of the East called the Bhagavad Gita. So my practice is informed by Raja Yoga, so it's not particularly Vipassana meditation, although I have a lot of friends who have practiced Vipassana and they have great things to say about it. Okay, can you please list those 5 fundamentals again? Great question. I think it's a good idea to reiterate them. So those 5 elements of well-being are positive emotions, engagement, meaning, accomplishment, and positive relationships. Okay, great question. Thank you. I like the way that we reiterate things. Louisa is feeling radiant. That's wonderful. Lorette is asking, could you repeat? Lorette's asking the 3 things that bring you well-being. Okay, Lorette, here you go. Write it down. Okay. The first question is, what were 3 things that went well today? Okay, so these are things that you could reflect at the end of the day. What went right today? And sometimes, you might say that I don't have anything that went right today. Then you can do what I did in my exercise, which is think back to a time when something really went right? Sometimes, for example, for some of you, it may be the morning and you may be saying, Jay, but it's just at the beginning of the day. How can I think of something that went right today? Maybe then you extend the time period and say what went right yesterday, last week, and really extend it to a time that you feel good. The point is that we are wiring our brain. You know about neuroplasticity. We are constantly creating neural networks in our brain. And I'm asking you to please consciously create positive neural networks in your body, because we have been wired evolutionarily to worry about things, to be thinking about the fight and flight mechanisms that have protected us. But they really no longer serve us, because we're always in the state of anxiety if you don't learn how to rewire it for positivity, looking at the beauty and all the gifts that we have in our life right now. Okay, so that's number 1. Think about 3 things that went right today. Second, sowing the seed of kindness. Think of 1 thing that you can do tomorrow that will be a random act of kindness that will bring joy to somebody. And most importantly, it'll bring joy to you. You don't have to say that, but it just naturally is an outcome of that. And then the third thing is spotting virtues in people that you interact with, particularly in ones that you find it to be hard to get along with people. Okay, so those are the 3 things. Great question, Lorette. Okay, so then Sierra's saying, when you focus on your breath, what exactly are you focusing on in your breath? The flow of air, Sierra. Thank you for asking that question. So it is about just noticing the simple things of sensations, because, breath is a beautiful passage from the world outside into the world inside. And it's both metaphoric and literal if you think about it, because breath becomes life, right? Air is the thing that was the first thing when we were born. It's the last thing. We have breathed our last breath when we pass away from this body. So the life force is sustained by breath. And so we use that important medium to transfer our attention from being on the outside into the world inside. So I'm using breath as a way literally to turn into the feelings within, because we oftentimes neglect it. We don't know what's going on in the body. We're so caught up in sometimes in the head, or we have the 5 senses which are constantly scanning what's happening outside. We're so excited and stimulated by the world out there that we neglect on what's happening in the world in here, which is our greatest genius. This amazing sensory capability, this organ called the body, right? So breath is a way to bring that. I call it like laying the anchor inside of yourself. Great question. Amita, I appreciate you typing out these 5 things. Thank you, because if I, this is easy for me to, to talk, but it's kind of hard for me to sit and type while I'm talking to you guys. So I'm glad you did it. Eve says that she's inspired. Althea saying, could you please repeat number 1 about feeling loved? Number 1, what? Number 1 of the 5 steps was positive emotions. Yes, so it's the emotions that, again, like I talk about this thing, I think I mentioned this, that's about noticing those moments when you feel loved, acknowledging that. What you're doing is by acknowledging it, you are reaffirming it, right? You are reinstating it. You are giving it emphasis in your body, right? You're putting it emphasis to become part of your psyche. Because if we don't acknowledge those things, if we don't give it its due credit for those positive feelings and experience that we've had, we're always thinking about what we don't have in life. So the more you invest and more you focus on the positive feelings, the more you naturally put those out and the more naturally you attract them. Thereby, you're constantly being surrounded by these positive emotions. So that's what I mean by that, right? It's a virtuous cycle. Like you must have heard of the word vicious cycle, right? So you do something that puts you on this negative spin and that constantly continues to keep resulting in negative things. Now I'm asking you to actually turn that around and actually go ahead and create a positive virtuous cycle. Okay, so let's see. Going down. Raja Yoga. Louisa, thank you for that. Could you please repeat number 1? I've read that. Preeti saying, join my circle. Yes, folks. So because once the moment I close this session out, I will have no way to contact you, no way to communicate with you, answer your questions, what have you. So I request you to please go ahead and join the circle. It's called Meditate with Jay. That way you guys can keep in connection. We can have the conversation going. You can hear about what I'm doing in the near future. I'm going to start doing retreats. I've got my first shot. One more shot to go on the 25th. I'll be, fingers crossed, I will be protected against the vaccine. I know against the virus. I know that there's mutations and things like that. But for the large majority, I think I should be, protected. And there's a lot of my friends reaching out to me and saying, Jay, when are you going to start doing your retreats again? So again, folks, if you join my circle, I will be posting about my retreats, which I'm going to be doing, and I do them all over the world. I had this beautiful schedule of doing Japan and for cherry blossom in the spring, Italy for the summer, Yellowstone National Park in the United States for the fall, and then I teach in Latin America and Mexico during the winter. So you guys, I'll keep you all posted with beautiful retreats, complete mind, body, spirit healing, the both inner and outer exploration. So a lot of my retreats, I'm a sportsman. Those of you who know me, I was a national champion sailor. So a lot of my retreats involve some fun, going out and learning Japanese martial arts, or going and hiking a mountain, or kayaking on the beach in front of my very close friend's house. She has this beautiful retreat center she's built in Colombia, and she's got this 50 feet of water where you can have, like, it's about 4 to 5 feet deep, so you can really enjoy. So those are the kind of retreats that I host. I mean, it's not meditation, yes, I mean, I was trained as a monk, but then there's a whole many other aspects to my retreats, which are complete mind, body, spirit healing and adventure and exploration. So let's see. Ida's asking the question, can you expand on the seat of consciousness? Okay, Ida. I'm going to take a few minutes. This is a very good question. I think I should make this the last question because we are out of time, but this is a very good question, so I want to go ahead and address it. And the rest of you, Cindy, and the other questions below, please come on my circle, and I will be happy to answer them. It's just that I want to respect everybody's time. Okay, so seat of consciousness. So think about, I use this analogy of USS Enterprise. Have you seen Star Trek ever? Right? If you haven't seen Star Trek, I'll just go ahead and quickly describe. It's this massive spaceship that does these amazing voyages. It goes to places where no man has ever been before, right? Into this vast openness of space. So in that TV show, there is this character called Captain Kirk. So Captain Kirk sits at the helm of the ship, navigating it, like he's this wise person, right, who sits at this cockpit, so to speak. And think about, where does a cockpit of a spaceship need to be? It needs to be in a place where there is a visibility to the world, right? Where is that it's kind of going into? It needs to be at a place where he can communicate with every part of that spaceship, right? Every department, every wing of the spaceship, so to speak, and hear back, right? And be able to be close to the neural network, if you will, or the control center where he can switch levers, he can press buttons, and it will make the rest of the vehicle function. So think about it. If this designer for this spaceship, this perfect vehicle of ours, had to find a place that would be the perfect cockpit for putting the master, putting the captain to seat the person in charge, where would that be? Perhaps it would be, just like on that USS Enterprise, behind the windows, the windscreen, the windshield of this vehicle. Perhaps somewhere close to where it can receive signals and send signals out. Perhaps where it is close to the neural network, to the control center, where it can make the different organs and the limbs, the expressions, be emoted, be exercised. So think of it. Perhaps it makes sense. Okay, it's a personal experience. I'm not trying to teach you. I'm not trying to give you a dogma. I don't want you to believe what I believe, but I'm just telling you, perhaps it makes sense for the captain of this vehicle, that is the master of this body, the life force, the conscient being, to be seated behind these eyes, between these ears, below the brain, behind this mouth, above the tongue. Would that make sense? Okay. With that, I'll thank you all for your lovely conversation, for your attention, for your questions, for your dialogue, for your participation. So the next session I'm going to be doing is 9 a.m. Pacific. It is Sunday healing. It's just a 30-minute, it's going to be pranayama and meditation. That's all we do on Sunday mornings. It's 30-minute set. So that's every Sunday. And then the Wednesday nights, which is my time, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. I think it's 7:30 or 6:30 in India right now. I know the time changed right now, so I'm a little confused as to exactly what it is. I think it's 6:30 a.m. in India right now. And I think it's about, midday for you guys in Australia. So this is my weekly hour where I do the life experiences, kind of, just reflecting on the important fundamentals of life, finding purpose, etc. That happens for an hour. So those you experienced today. So it's pranayama, wisdom nuggets, meditation, and Q&A. My Sunday sessions are just pranayama and meditation. Okay. So until I see you all again in my next session, I want you to stay happy, stay cheerful, go spread your light, and be well.